Hello, everybody. This is the Sibelius live stream for November. Um, Hope you're all doing good today. Um, we're going to be looking at some interesting stuff for Christmas time because it is coming up in, a month and a couple weeks, thereabouts. Um, some of you might know that I'm actually a church musician and I've been thoroughly in the Christmas mode already, doing a lot of planning with my choir and figuring out the carols and the hymns and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure there's other schools planning for their holiday concerts, so it's a busy time for all of us musicians out there. Um, so I would like to get started here. I'm going to just make sure we're all good to go. I have a few friends helping me out, just going that are going to be checking on the chats that come in, elevating any questions that come through. So please feel free to answer. You can put in your questions, and I'll try and answer them as best as I can as we go. I'm going to change to Sibelius now. Should be able to see that. So what I want to do today is look at some Christmas carols. So I have some over here. I actually just picked these up earlier, and we're gonna just transcribe these, and we'll learn a few things along the way as we go. I think we should start here. This is probably the most famous Christmas carol of all time. It's "Joy to the World." Just got to drag it over from my other monitor, so hopefully you can see that. Very normal, common carol that everyone knows, but this one has some tricks up its sleeve with the weird lyrics on the bottom and other stuff. So we'll try and work on this. I'm gonna put this on my other screen so it doesn't take up space. Just checking on all my buttons and knobs here. Give me 1 second. All right. So put that out of the way. Hopefully you can see the nice giant keypad. If anyone wasn't aware, this was like a recent thing where the keypad can actually be dragged to any size. You can also make it really small. See that? This is a relatively new thing from the olden days, because when we redesigned this keypad, almost a year ago now, everything was redesigned with vector graphics, so we had that in mind where we could make this at any size. And if you double click the header bar, that resets it to its default size. And since I have a very high resolution monitor, it becomes quite small. So I'm going to make it nice and big so you can actually see what's going on. All right. And here we go. We're going to just start with adding some instruments. I'm going to do a soprano and a bass. And since this is going to be like a hymn style, we won't need these names here. So I'm going to set this to none. No instrument names at all. It's not necessary. And the version I'm looking at doesn't actually have a time signature, but it's actually 2/4. So let's add that in. And I'm just going to start typing. I don't know if you can hear the desktop audio or not. It may not be coming through. Hopefully it's coming through for you. All right. And I'm going to do this all in 4 voices. Why am I got this little tool that shows you what my keystrokes are. I don't know why it's being so weird. Weird with the Windows key. There's something funky there. see that. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. I'm just going to cancel it. Give me 1 second. All right, I'm going to turn that off because it's more annoying than it helps. Oop. Got my very loud clackety keyboard. Just gonna move this over a bit. Do. Okay. So one thing I'm working on with my church choir right now is we have a lessons and carol service in December. It's going to be super fun. Part of that was like making all the hymns arranged and like making sure all the lyrics were correct, and you know, you can't just always trust the hymn book to have everything exactly right. You always got to make sure it's all correct, and researching things, it's always an issue. Fortunately, I've done a few of these now, so I don't have to reinvent the wheel every single year. But it's still annoying. It takes a lot of work. But I think it's one of the best things to do. Okay, so these are all the same. There we go. Then we have Heaven and Nature Sing. Oops. I'm just going to do repeat here. That's another way to do that. Yeah. Repeating is not super useful. See what I did there when I had the dotted quarter and then I repeated it, which caused a bunch of ties and stuff. That's not always the best way to do it. There's various different ways you can accomplish this stuff. It's one of the best things about Sibelius is you can do so many different things in so many different ways. It gives you the flexibility and options. All right, I got to turn my page here. Do. I'm just jumping around between voices here. Okay, I think that's the end of the tune. Okay, so the tenor has a dotted quarter and the bass has Heaven and Nature Sing. Oops, there we go. Easy peasy, right? Okay, good. There's a couple of slurs here, so let's add those in. I'm going to be a stickler about all melismas need to get proper slurs. This particular edition I'm using is from the Episcopal hymnal, and it does some kind of old-fashioned things a lot of the time. Like here, you got the beams that are broken for the syllables. I'm not going to replicate that here. And also, like, they're inconsistent when they use slurs and when they don't. So I'm going to be more consistent with the modern approach by putting all the slurs where they belong. And nature sing, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven. Very good. Okay. Now, get rid of these two bars. So there, we have the notes for the tune. Now we got to put in the words. So I have the words in a document. So I don't have to type these all individually. That would take forever. Why would I do that? What I can actually do is I'm going to put this on my other screen again, just so it doesn't get in the way. But I have the words here. I'm going to copy this. I copied the first stanza into my clipboard. And I'm going to do Control L to make the lyrics start. And then just start pasting. Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her king. And you just keep pasting. Use the spacebar to advance the caret when you need to. So it didn't quite do every right. So that's a silly thing. I'm going to fix that. Heart, prepare him room. Oops, too far. And heaven. So this one's tricky. Heaven is one syllable here, right? So I got to put these together. Heaven. Oh, I just ruined my my copying. So I'm gonna do that second half. So let me delete these. So there's no easy way to do that other than to just paste it twice on the same syllable. I'll do that again. You'll see what I did there. And nature sing, and ha. So it did ha, and then I'm double clicking again. Ven, and nature sing, and heaven. It's technically heaven as one syllable. And same thing here. Heaven and nature sing. Okay? Very good. I'm going to do that again. Let's do the second verse. Now for here, I'm going to go to text, lyrics, line 2. The Savior doesn't quite do Savior right. I'll just put it there. Yeah, reigns. Let us our songs employ. All fields and floods, rocks, hills, and plains. Repeat the sounding joy. Oops, that was one too far. So just undo, and you'll see it puts the ones that I undid back into the queue, right? Repeat the sounding joy. Repeat the sounding joy. Look at that. Very good. Number 3. Let sins and sorrows grow, infest the ground. Is found, far as the curse is found. Sorry, it's getting cut off a little bit. There we go. Far as the curse is found. Yeah, that's the rare verse that you don't hear very often. And then we have number 4. He rules the world with truth and grace, and makes the nations prove the glories of his right. Okay, so what happened there? So you catch that? The word is righteousness, and the parser didn't know what to do, so it actually skipped it. So I have to type that one properly. Righteousness. Yeah, the parser is not perfect. Sometimes if it doesn't know what to do, it'll skip it. And oh, I skipped wonders because I went too fast. Wonders of his love. Wonders of his love. Skipping up. my fault. There's a 16th note there. And wonders of his love. Okay, very good. And you can see that since I have auto optimize on, which is right here, optimize auto, the staves actually push themselves apart so that you could actually, like see the lyrics. They're not all stepping on top of each other. I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to select all, do a reset note spacing. That'll adjust some things. And then I just have to do a little cleanup here because this is a hymn. It's going to be tight. That's always how it goes. So I'm just going to do some little cleanup here. I'm also going to check on my my source here. I'm just going to check that the words are correct, as a proofreading kind of step. Receive her king. Let every. So this is a tricky one. Some hymnals do this and some don't, where you would put an omission here. Every, like that. I'm not going to do that here. I think this is very clear on what's going on. Oh, this is one other problem I have with this version. Is this bar is supposed to be 2 bars long. By convention, that's usually what happens. So what I'm going to do here, I'm also going to put this pickup on the next line. So the easy way to do that, you go to Home, and you go to Split, and add a system break, invisible, right? Easy peasy, right? So I'm actually going to add an extra bar in here. Let me get rid of the lyrics on that one. And make those double length. It's just one of those things that's always done in practice because that makes it an 8-bar phrase. Right? 8 bars. Yeah, and then this is weird because this is actually like 4 and 4, so it's like 12. So it's a little bit of a strange meter, less common meter. All right, what command am I using to paste one syllable at a time? It's the regular paste command. So what you have to do is you have to get all of the lyrics on your clipboard, right? Just like your normal copy. Here, I'll do it again because we have to do it again down here for this bass part. So I'll show you one more time, more slowly. So check this out. So we go to here. So this is Heaven and Nature Sing. Right. So I'm clicking here. I have this. I'm doing Control C to copy it, right? Or copy like that. So now if I made a technique text, there's the text, right? It's just the normal words, right? But if I do a lyrics, so Control L and Heaven and Nature Sing, it's just built in. So whenever you're pasting in lyrics, it will automatically break it into syllables. There is a way to turn that off in the settings if you need that for some reason. There are if the parser doesn't know the language you're working in, or you have specific blocks of text under a single note. For example, like a psalm setting, if you have one of those long tone notes where you're doing a whole bunch of words under one thing, then you would probably turn the parser thing off so you could just put a big block of text under a single lyric. But for most situations, this is the way you would do that, is having it parse automatically. Let's see if I can find that. I think it's in here in preferences. I don't remember where it is, if it's in note input or if it's in other. Yeah, right here. Paste lyrics from clipboard. Automatically syllabify pasted lyrics. So if you turn that off, then it wouldn't do that, right? And there's a few dictionaries that exist that will try to essentially split the words into syllables. And I will say it's not perfect all the time. There's a couple spots in here where we're going to have to fix it. Here's one such example. Sounding, right? It should be sounding. The D belongs on that syllable, right? So it's not perfect, but it gets you most of the way. So I would always recommend just checking. Oops. I'd always recommend just checking it that it's all correct. Now this is very tight, so I'm actually gonna give this. Well, we might actually be able to make this work. Let's see. I'm just gonna start doing some cleanup on this. So I'm gonna delete the extra rest there. Here's another trick for choral stuff. When you have these up stem tenor parts and then you got slurs that really start to get in the way, this is something you can do, is really get them closer to the note heads. I always prefer that. Get those slurs in closer. You don't want them to look strange, but that can save you vertical height a lot. So definitely recommend that. It's pretty good. So this heaven is a really tricky one. The traditional way to do this would be to add a contraction there, like that, heaven. I kind of prefer that in this situation because it really points out to the singers that this is intentionally one syllable and you're not going to get around it, right? Heaven and nature sing. I'm just going to adjust things slightly. Another common thing you see in hymnals in particular is these word extensions are removed unless it's like a really long kind of note. It's usually understood from context, so it's just removed from to keep it from cluttering things up. Here's another one. Blessings. Blessings. Yeah, the parser doesn't handle ing suffixes very well. It tends to be overly aggressive. Just checking against my score here. Looks pretty good to me. Savior, sorrows, truth, world. See, this is normal. You sometimes have to make adjustments when a word gets too long. It starts to spill into the next bar. That's super common for hymnals. I think a lot of people really don't appreciate the amount of subtle tweaking that happens when engraving hymns, because you're trying to fit so much information into such a small space. All right, I'm only going to put Heaven and Nature Sing here. I'm not going to put all four of them like is in the original. I think that's a bit overkill. The basses will understand it. Yeah, that's fine. I think that'll work fine. I'm going to get rid of more of these. More of these guys. These word extensions. Nature Sing. There's another sounding. This is something you have to be careful about. You can see that the hyphen disappeared. That's actually an engraving rules setting. Where is my text? See this here? Hyphens allowed to disappear when syllables are too close together. If you uncheck that, that won't happen. The problem is then you get collisions sometimes, so you got to be careful of that. So I'm just going to reset the spacing and let it work it out. Just going to move things around just a bit. Here's another heaven, so I'm going to put another. There's a lot of these. Good. Slurs again. Here's one that's really bad. That one needs to come right in. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Now I'm just going to tighten this up just a little bit. Now, let's assume, just for the sake of our session today, like this is the handout that we would hand out to our chorus or congregation, whatever you have, caroling group, even, you know. I'm going to do some adjustments here. So I'm going to I want these lyrics to get closer. They're a little bit far away. So I'm going to select all the lyrics and do freeze magnetic layout, right? Which is this one, freeze positions. I have my own Alt-Shift-F. That's my own personal shortcut. That's not a default one, but I use it so much that it created my own shortcut. And I'm just going to nudge this ever so slightly. And then see this guy here? I'm going to cheat just a little bit. Get these stems a little bit closer. So little tricks like that are very common. I'm going to do it again. Filter lyrics, freeze, and have it come in again. Very good. Same thing. Filter lyrics, freeze, and come in again. The idea is that you want to have these, again, I'm cheating on the stems a little bit. You gotta make sure they match. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. This is a bug, actually. See this? The stem is a little bit too long. That's a subtle one. We got to fix that one. Cool. A couple other things we want to add. Obviously, we need a title. So let's do right-click, title, Joy to the World. Let's add the composer. Antioch is the name of the hymn tune, so we do that in all caps. Something like that. That works perfectly fine. And the lyrics, so let's add lyricist Isaac Watts. Very nice. Now I'm just going to line those up. And one other thing that would be very helpful here is verse numbers, right? So if I'm going right here, go into the command search, type verse, add verse numbers. That will add, it's a plugin. It's been in Sibelius for years. And it adds these little text objects that will align to the left. And you get verse numbers. Very useful. Some hymnals will do that on every single system. Some just do it on the first. I like it just on the first, unless it's got like, 6 or 7 stanzas. Then we have some issues to deal with there. But yeah, there we are. All done in half an hour. Oh, I think I've got one more heaven here that I missed. My apologies. There we go. And I've got a little, I got a little stray dash there. Let me see. I'm not sure where that dash is coming from. Oh, it's coming from repeat. Okay. Yeah, that might be a mistake. I'm not sure. There we go. Very good. And you could just do your little tweaks. And there it is. All done. Perfect. I'm going to save that in my Livestream folder. As Joy to the World. All done. If anyone has any other questions, feel free to send them in. Let's do another one. I'm going to close this. I'm going to make a brand new file. Let's do something a little different. So Oops. No, I don't want open. I want new. New. Brand new. Thank you. Very good. Blank. So one of the cool things that you can do in Sibelius is chant notation. And there's another tune. It's not as well known as Judge the World, but it's this tune called Of the Father's Love Begotten. And I want to pull that out for you here. It's been done many times in many different ways because it's such an old tune. It's something like, 600 years old or something like that. But this is a plain song style, right? Where there's no stems, there's no real meter. It's all like, in phrases. Also, there's quite a lot of words, which we'll show you that again. But I think this would be a great one to try out because you don't see Sibelius doing chant notation that often. So I wanted to show you how this works. So I'm gonna put this on my other screen so it doesn't block Sibelius for you. But I'm starting from a fresh score here, so this is nothing special here. It's all default stuff. Again, I'm going to turn off those instrument names because they're not necessary. And I'm going to treat this as if it was just a single line of chant notation that your congregation would read in a bulletin or something like that. So we'll start with the fact that it's in E flat major. There is no time signature here. So that's a key thing. So by default, you do get time signature that is 4/4. Like if there is no time signature, it assumes 4/4. So with this kind of chant notation, what I usually prefer to do is to make a very large time signature. So it's functionally as if I'm writing in no meter. So I'm going to set this to like 10/1, something quite long. So I have a whole bunch of room here to work with. And you'll see how this works. I'm also going to put this in panorama just so that, we don't get confused by system breaks or any of that stuff right now, because we'll sort that out later. So I'm just going to start writing this with straight quarter notes, half notes, whatever. And whenever it's you have these notes here where it's the final note of the phrase, I'm just going to make those as half notes, right? So quarter notes, half notes. That's what they are under the hood. And I'm just going to continue with no rests. Sorry, that should be a half note. There we go. And if I run out of space in my bar, it doesn't really matter because these are all going to get the bar lines and bar lengths will all get adjusted later. This is down the octave. And one more phrase here. 2/8 notes there. Okay, so now what I want to do is first I'm going to select everything and go to, is it notations? I think so. Yeah, right here. So you have the note head type. And I'm going to do stemless. Shift Alt H on Windows. And now we have our stemless notes. Then we want to split the bars. So you can see in the original here, they've got these little short bar lines between each phrase, which is a pretty normal way of showing that. So Sibelius has those. If I do split like we did earlier, I don't want a system break, but I want a short bar line. Like that. And then I'm going to do that for each of these. No, I don't want to delete it. And you can see this is actually creating discrete bars. Now, it also does this thing where it assumes they're one bar together. You can delete that if you want, and now it's just bar 1, 2, 3, and so on. Since this is like a hymn, it doesn't matter. Bar numbers won't be shown. But if you're OCD about that sort of thing, you know, you can do that. You can turn this off, essentially. This one, same number. If I turn that off. Now this one, I actually need to join these. So I'm going to join those together. And that's where the split and join setup really, really shines. It's very helpful. All right, and then there's another split here, and that's the end of the tune. So if I can just delete those, and there we are. There's my chant. I can delete this, the time signature. Do you want to rewrite to the next time signature? If I do yes, that will destroy all the stuff I just did, right? Because it's going to try and coerce it back into 4/4. So I'm going to undo that and say, no, I don't want to rewrite it. So now each of these bars is a custom length, and there's no time signature, right? Now we can look at how to write this with the lyrics. There are a few slurs in here, so let's add those in. Begotten, do 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 do. Do 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 do. There we are. So this is a tricky thing about chant notation. So Sibelius used the stemless version like this, but even though they're stemless, there is still a concept of the stem being stems up or stems down, even if the stem isn't shown, right? So if I just make these normal, while they're not shown, so it won't push the slur out of the way. The fact that these stems right here are stems down coerces the slur to be put on top. Now that's fine if that's what you want, but in this particular instance, it's probably better that the slur is down here because then it matches all the other ones. And then you just have to do some adjustments here because you can see it's trying to coerce it to work. The other way you could do it is actually flip the notes themselves, which that seems a little strange. Like, what is it flipping? It's flipping the internal marker that says this is a stems up or this is a stems down note. So that's a little tricky. That's one of the rare cases where WYSIWYG is not actually WYSIWYG in this program. Same with this one here. The B flat is actually internally stems down. So if you select it, then now it goes stems down. Select it and do the X, which is the flip. Okay, so there's my chant. Very nice. I have words for this. I don't think I'll do all 5 verses just to save time. We'll do only a few of them. But again, I'm doing a Control L, and now I'm just pasting. And whenever it's a melisma, I'm just hitting the space bar. So that's a long one. Very nice. That was easy. That was super easy. No really complicated words in that one. All right, let's add another one. So another way to do this, you go to text, lyrics, line 2. Savior, that's another one. Very good. Let's do one more. All right, let's do third verse here. Went one thing too far, so I have to undo that one. I'm just going to start it silent. I want to point out something quickly here. There's a couple of these words here that have the hyphen in it, not the hyphen, the apostrophe. They use the straight one, but I prefer the curly one. That's the more proper thing to use. But you can see, like, every here, the parser did interpret it as 2 syllables, so it did put it properly. I don't know why heaven has 2. Yeah, that's just a mistake in the original source. That's fine. But yeah, so it interpreted heaven as 1 syllable, right? So it was able to account for that. But one thing I want to do here is I'm going to select everything and do, oops, wrong button. I'm going to do Smarten Quotes, which is a lovely little plugin. I do not want it to color anything. Process all the things. Okay, 3 changes were made to your score. And what that did is it turned those straight apostrophes into curved ones, which is the more appropriate syllable or symbol. So very useful when your source material is not properly formatted. I'm just going to make a few minor adjustments here. The apostrophe actually belongs on the 2nd syllable on that one. I'm going to just check against my original. This is a really funny controversy. We've had this in music engraving tips a couple times. How to deal with the word ever. It's ever and every are really tricky because English is not very consistent. In this particular hymnal, they divide it this way: evermore, right? But you could just as easily make this argument evermore, but I think the reason they usually put the V here is to not make this mistaken as ever as opposed to ever. So it's a little tricky thing. But yeah, there's certain words that there is no actual consistent English syllable divisions. Fight about that one in the comments. it's a fun one. All right, let's keep looking here. So I'm just checking my original source. Blessed, there's another suffix that wasn't quite right. Here, forever. Again, I'm going to remove these word extensions. Oops. There we go. Virgin full of grace. Praises. Yeah, that's another one. That could go either way. I've seen that one both ways. Powers, dominions bow before him. Conceiving. Where is that in my original? Yeah, I think that's right. That makes sense. Omega. Savior, extol. This is definitely wrong. This should be redeemer. And so this is a common... This is me just talking as an editor at this point. This is a very common misconception about lyrics. The morphemes have to stay together even when the actual sound doesn't happen in exact time. So this is a perfect example. The word redeemer, you have the M of the deem, right? The M doesn't happen until over here in real time. Redeemer, right? The M actually happens in real time here. The problem with that is you have to keep the morpheme together so you can understand what the word is. Redeem, and then the singer will understand that they just have to hold that E forever, because that's how That's how music works for most of the time. You're almost always sustaining on a vowel. So don't ever let that trip you up, right? The morphemes always have to stay together. All right, let's have a look. So I'm going to put my verse numbers in again and put in a title. I'm going to want to put I'm going to copy this syllable there, or symbol. Also, that's another subtle thing. Make sure that it's dragged to the first beat, or else you can get into trouble later. All right. I believe the name. All right, let's do that again. Composer. Divinum Mysterium. And then there's this. This is a name for you. That's the most Latin name I've ever seen. Look at that. And 348 to 400. So this text is 1600 years old. Good Lord. It's very, very old. All right, so there we are. There's no more to do here. Like, because this is actually quite well spaced, I don't really have to futz with any more spacing stuff. So that's it. Now, let's imagine in this situation. So we've got this, very nice 3 verses. And then the rector or the pastor or whoever comes to me and says, oh, I want to add another verse in here. We already have this 3-verse version, but I'd like to add another verse between 2 and 3 because we forgot to add one, or we eliminated it, but then someone changed their mind. This happens more than you can imagine. So the way to do that, you would have to do a little bit of moving things around here. So this is where an advanced filter comes in, and it's very useful for this situation. So I want to add a 3rd verse here, but not this one. This 3rd verse will now become 4, right? So I'm going to go to Filters, Advanced. Just the selection in this case, it's the whole score, so it doesn't really matter. I want to select text and check text because I'm only searching for text here. And then I want to search for lyrics line 3. Okay? Doesn't matter what it contains. I just want everything that's lyrics line 3. Right? Lyrics line 3. It even catches the verse number, which is nice. Then I want to go up here to text and change this to 4. Now, nothing happened yet because I haven't changed the spacing. But if I do Control Shift P, which resets the positioning, that's right here. Reset position. Now it's at its default spot, right? On approximately where verse 4 would be, right? So it's a little tricky now that we have to probably move things out of the way a little bit because they're not, there isn't enough room. But now we can add that 3rd verse. So which one did we miss here? It was this one. Okay. So I'm going to go here. Going to go to text and lyrics and line 3 because we just moved line 3, right? Ooh, so it did. So this is one where it didn't. Okay, so this is a problem with English. Long expected is a hyphenated word, right? So that's correct grammatically. So I actually have to do this. expected, like that. And then I got to get that last line because I think I ruined it. See how in the original it was hyphenated, so it assumed that was a syllable thing. So caveat on that one. And then more evermores. Got to fix these evermores again. Okay, and again, expected, right? That's a subtle thing. Expected. Looks good. Creation. Yeah, promised. What does the original do there? Yeah, promise. The M should be in there. Prophets. Voice says. Yeah. This is another one. Voices. It's another word where you have the ICE. ICE is a real tricky one in English. But voice says, right? Because the E travels with the S when it's a plural. So that it's voice says like that. Move that. Chant ed. Oops. There we go. Accord, that's correct. And there we are. That's all it took. And then I just gotta... Well, what I'm gonna do, this is gonna be faster. If I just delete these and then just redo the verse. Oops, my bad. There we go. Just add the verse numbers again and just re-adds them. And now I have 4. And there we are. Couldn't be easier. So like this has happened to me in real life where there was this like panic that they looked at the handout for the congregation and it was the wrong thing and there was like a verse. That took me what, 5 minutes? 6 minutes? Something like that to fix it. So like this is where having this stuff all beautifully in Sibelius and, you know, working well, it shows it where it really shines. I'm going to do one little subtle thing with the inspector. I want to see if this works. We're going to discover this in real time. Yeah, it does work. I'm just mimicking something that this score does. You can see it's really, really small, but they actually inset the bar line slightly to make it more visible. So I just did that here. Just to match what it was doing. And the way I did that is with the inspector. You can set this X value, which gives you like the literal offset value on the horizontal axis. So cool. This looks beautiful. I would totally give this to people to read, or even put this in the bulletin, right? And other things you can consider, right? This is using just the default, you know, 1/2 inch, whatever margins. But if you think of like our bulletin that we use, it has 1 inch margins on all sides. So I would actually want it to be like that, be a little bit tighter, right? And it still works. This one's pretty spaced out, so it's still readable. There isn't much I need to do here, but that's something you always want to make sure you're always aware of your final size when you're doing the layout steps. You always want to make sure, you know, that that you account for that, because horizontal note spacing when you're dealing with lyrics can get really tough and complicated. So you really want to just, you know, set yourself up for success with that stuff. Okay. Let me save this before we lose it. And maybe it'll show up in a future live stream. Who knows? Oh, the Father's love begotten. Look at us. Two of them down. Let's close that. I think we should do one more. What do you say? Let's do one more. And I think we've had enough church stuff. Let's do Deck the Halls, because this is just the best carol in the world. It is so much fun. The kids love it. And It is Welsh, right? Yeah, I wasn't I wasn't crazy. No, it is a Welsh tune. Uh, I remember seeing it in the what is it called? The Ralph Vaughan Williams Rafe Vaughan Williams Carols for Choirs with the original like Welsh and all. It was very cool to actually see the original source material for that stuff and how different it is, and how interesting these carols have changed over the years. All right, so what I want to do here is uh, we'll enter this in just as it is, and then maybe we'll make a couple different versions, right? Again, I'm going to put this over on my other corner so it doesn't get in your way of seeing what I'm doing. Soprano, bass. Now they mark this as 2/2. I think that's fair. It's quite fast. E flat major. Now this one does it in single stems for the most part, so I'm just going to mimic that in here just for a change of pace. Okay. And as I'm entering notes for like the tenor part here, I'm using the number keys, which add an interval above. The other thing you can do is holding shift. Oops. Holding shift and then the letter name, like I'm doing here. So A, G, F, G, like that. So it goes quite quick. Now, very conveniently, this is identical for the next thing. So I just select it, R. I can repeat an entire chunk of music just like that, real simple. Then we have Dawn Me Now. Okay. Okay, very good. Okay, so these are all single voice. This is two voices. This is a subtle thing that you see in some hymnals, actually. I'm just mimicking what they did here. When it's a second, they'll insist on having it as two stems. Probably just because this is trickier to read. I don't know. I don't really understand the logic behind that. I just prefer it like this, honestly. I'm just going to leave it like that. I find this fine. Maybe it's just because I'm better at reading than the average person. Who knows? Because, I find that hard, but then this decision worse. Like, the alto is switching between voices every single beat here, when that is probably easier to read, or at a minimum that, right? But then in order to be consistent, all of the individual stems that can be combined are. So, yeah. Different schools of thought on that stuff. All right, let me finish this up quick. We have Troll the Ancient, Yuletide Carol, which I believe, again, is exactly the same as this. So copy, paste. Yuletide Carol, and then fa la la. The last fa la la is different. Okay. All right. And whenever it's voice 2 that I don't need, I'm just hiding it. And there we are. Easy peasy, right? So now comes the tricky part. I gotta add these lyrics in. Now, what they did in this version is the fa la las are all merged together, which I think is fine. It does make sense. I might want to add like a bracket or something. We'll see. I'll see if I can get that to work. But so where's my original here? Here we go. Deck the halls with Bow's Folly, fa la la. So I'm just gonna do the first verse. This should go quite quickly. Oh, that's funny. Is that a mistake in my original? Fa la 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 la. Yeah, there's a la missing. Ha. All right, we'll keep aware of that. 'Tis the season to be jolly. Add one extra. Troll the ancient Yuletide Carol. All right. This won't take long. So what I'm going to do actually is delete these fa la las, because I'm not going to do them for all 3 verses, because I'm going to try and do that middle thing where they're all in the center. So I'm going to delete these from my original to make this faster. So here we go. So I want to do lyrics line 2. See the blazing Yule. So I've got to skip these, right? So that's the subtle thing. Strike the harp. Merry measure. I specifically want voice 2. There we go. Yuletide treasure. One more. Oops. Sorry, let's try that again. Undo is your friend. Sing we joyous all together. Okay, so that's a subtle one. It didn't parse joyous properly. So you always got to be careful. Yeah, joyous together. Heedless of the wind and weather. So joy us. There we go. All right, couple adjustments. Lasses, jolly, that's fine. Season, strike. Blazing. Passes. Bows, good. Apparel. Yeah, I think this is wrong. Together. Yeah. How did they do weather? That's an interesting one. You don't see that one so much. Yeah. Weather. Weather. Treasure. Yeah, I agree. Did they do treasure? Yeah. Same with Carol. Yeah. So again, it's that morpheme rule. Carol. Carol. Treasure. Weather. All the morpheme consonants stay with the original. What did they do for ancient? Ancient. Apparel. Yeah, measure is another one. It's not measure. It's measure. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Very nice. Let's go back to appearance and remove all of these. Nope. Well, let's try. Let's do a little bit differently. Let's do this where the subsequent would have nothing, but we can do soprano, alto, tenor, bass like that. Let's add a title. Deck the halls. And then very good. Now, for these follow laws. Oh, let me do one thing before I do that. So you see each of these phrases very nicely fits on one line. So I'm going to force that with a system break here. Right? So they all very nicely fit on one line, very easy to deal with. If I look at here, I want to have those the follow laws to fit in the middle. I'm going to kind of do what I did before. I'm just going to select these lyrics and change them to lyrics 2, which then puts them on that middle line, right? So I could do that for all of these. Well, dogs are barking at something out there. All right, filters, lyrics. Sorry, text. There we go. There's only 4 of them, not a big deal. Okay, so that changes that up. I think that's pretty clear. The other thing you could do here is add something like a bracket, which would kind of look like this. I don't know if that's strictly necessary because it's very clear on what is happening, right? The follow laws are shared in every verse, so it may not be necessary. So I'm not going to bother in this situation. Let's add verse numbers here. And there's not much else to do. I mean, if this was a straight soprano, alto, tenor, bass, that's what you would do. There it is. Let me save this. Sorry, I need to find my live stream folder. There we go. All right. Let's do one other thing. So let's assume this is what you'd hand out to your choir. You have your complete SATB version, all the harmonies, everyone's happy. But we actually need to make a second version for the congregation which just has the melody, which is very typical in like bulletin situations where you only have the top. So the way to do this, I'm going to do is save this as a new document. So the way to do this is you would delete the bottom instrument. Then for the top instrument, I have to delete all of these lower notes. So that's fine for all of these that have single voices, but then Once we get down here, it gets a little tricky. So I'm going to select the bottom. I'll do it manually here. You can see filters, notes for chords copying or deletion. The difference between these is subtle and it's not relevant in this situation, but it's because of the tuplets situation. So it doesn't matter in this situation, but we'll do bottom note in this case. And you can see it's selected the alto part for all of those bars. Just hit delete and it's gone. Now I'll show you what happens if you try to do this, right? Bottom or single, right? So it'll miss some of these other ones because what it assumes is it's only going to give you the bottom notes with voice 1, right? So that gets us part of the way, but then I have to select all of this voice 2 stuff. So do filters, voice 2 only, delete twice because you have to delete the rest as well. And that's it. The only other thing to do is turn off this little guy up the front there. And we need to adjust the sizing, which means I'm going to do a bit of a reset, and then we might have to do some adjustments because, as you can see right here, bows is quite a long syllable. I'm going to make one further adjustment to just tighten the spacing up just a little bit on these edges, just to give it a little more breathing room. And there we are. There would be your bulletin version. I'm just going to do one more thing. Reset top and bottom, staff size, and that's perfectly readable. I think that would be very fun for a Christmas service. So there we have it. I think we're going to call it there for today. Please send us any questions you have for anything you saw today, and we'll make sure to respond to you if we didn't get to you on this one, or I'll see you around on the forums. I think it'll be great. Thank you, everybody. Hope your preparations for Christmas have been going well, and hope Sibelius is going to be a part of your Christmas season. We'll see you around for the next one. Bye-bye.